Right now, I just want to discuss the recent Trespass bill, and I want to put into the context how America has become more and more of a police state over the past 10 years. But first, I want to note that there was a language change in the bill. President Obama recently signed H.R. 347, also known as the Federal Restricted Buildings and Grounds Improvement Act of 2011. According to Russia Today, there was a slight uh, language change, and that under the Trespass Bill's latest language change, someone could end up in law enforcement custody for entering an area that they don't realize is Secret Service protected and engage in disorderly or disruptive conduct, or impedes or disrupts the orderly conduct of government business or official functions. Uh, so now, even if you go and, for example, you go into a uh, a place where the president is speaking and you start protesting, you can go and be arrested, even if you don't realize that it's being protected, by the Secret Service. But some of the problems I have with this bill is that it doesn't ever define specifically what what government business is, what official functions are, and because uh, the bill restricts areas that are under the jurisdiction of Secret Service protection. A problem with that is that this is a very wide net because you have because Secret Service protects people from the U.S. from the president to presidential candidates such as Mitt Romney and Newt Gingrich, uh, and pretty much anything can be under the jurisdiction of the Secret Service. For example, if the president goes to a sporting event, uh, that could be under Secret Service jurisdiction, protection, uh, or uh, they go and pretty much anything from them having an actual formal speech to them going to a sporting event, could be uh, under the protection of the Secret Service. But also this bill um, it needs to be put into the context of uh, of how America has become somewhat of a police state over the past 10 years. Uh, the rise of the police state initially began, at least in modern times, in 2001 with the passing of the Patriot Act. Because of the shock of 9/11, uh, people were totally fine with passing the Patriot Act, even though we later learned that you could go, the U.S. government could go and illegally wiretap you. They could go and could search house without the need of a warrant. And uh, then in 2006, you had the U.S. Military Commissions Act, where the language uh, was so vague, you know, that, for example, about who an enemy combatant was, that, for example, a protester could be labeled an enemy combatant. And, that's already bad enough, you know, uh, with being able to be wiretapped on, being able to be labeled a enemy combatant, which would allow you to be taken to Guantanamo and held there indefinitely. But now we've gone so far, extremely so far, in a negative manner, because that's already bad enough. But now it's gone to the point where under Obama, you have the uh, National Defense Act, National Defense Authorization Act of 2012, which uh, allows for the indefinite detention, of U.S. citizens, and there was a lot of argument over whether that the bill allowed for the indefinite detention of U.S. citizens. For example, I emailed Senator Lautenberg, one of my senators, about it, and he said that there is a provision in the bill which exempted U.S. citizens. However, this was proven false uh, by people such as Jonathan Turley, a law professor at George Washington University, and Glenn Greenwald, a former constitutional lawyer and writer uh, at Salon.com. But however, even if these two voices hadn't spoken up, you would still know that the NDA allowed for the indefinite detention of U.S. citizens because there was recently a a hearing in Congress where they essentially debated over whether or not the U.S. government could indefinitely detain U.S. citizens. So you've got that, and now even more recently, on top of that, you now uh, have Attorney General Eric Holder, who's essentially the Obama administration's version of John Yoo, uh, arguing that the president can assassinate U.S. citizens without telling anyone. So essentially, the president has become the judge, jury, and executioner, and they don't have to tell uh, anyone at all. And this is a major problem, not just in the obvious reasons, that the president can assassinate you, or you can be indefinitely detained, or your freedom of protest is being restricted. But it just shows how broken our government is. Because usually when you hear the term broken government, it usually refers to the partisan politics being played out in Washington. However, the greatest threat is the incompetence of our government, the incompetence of Congress, because and the president, because we already knew that we already know that we can't trust the legislative branch, we can't trust the executive branch, but the National Defense Authorization Act, this recent argument that the president can assassinate U.S. citizens has not at all been challenged by the judicial branch. They have sat there quietly watching this go on, knowing that this does in fact violate the Constitution, and just sitting there and watching as if nothing is wrong. So we have a crisis of government in which the branches of government are failing us. And due to this failing us, they are allowing more and more power to be amassed in the executive branch. And for more and more of our civil liberties and our rights to be eroded, sometimes outright destroyed, in the name of so-called security. But the greatest danger, though, is that this government incompetence, this crisis of government, may very well allow for a somewhat authoritarian state to rise up, in the sense that because you don't have the legislative branch doing its job, because you don't have the judicial branch doing its job, and both branches are letting more and more power being amassed, letting more and more power to be amassed by the president, will essentially make the both branches useless, because the executive branch will have the majority of the power, or at least the final say. And that should be a major worry to us. That's what we should fight against, and also what we should be worried about and keep aware of. That if we do not watch out, we may very well end up in an authoritarian democracy.